The crash and the stranger. The sky was on fire. Jackson's ship spun fast, falling through thick clouds. Sparks flew. Metal screamed. Inside the cockpit, red lights flashed. Jackson held the controls tight, but nothing worked. "Come on, hold together," he whispered. But it was too late. The ship hit the trees. Branches snapped. The ground shook. Then, silence. Smoke rose from the wreck. Birds flew away in fear. Jackson opened his eyes. His head hurt. Blood ran down his cheek. He pulled off his helmet and looked around. The cockpit was smashed. Flames danced across the broken ship. He climbed out slowly. His leg was hurt, but not broken. He could walk. He grabbed his small bag, a knife and a pistol. He was alone. The jungle around him was thick and green. Strange plants, tall trees. The air was warm and wet, and quiet. Too quiet. Then he heard it. A scream. High and sharp. Not human. Jackson ran toward the sound. Branches slapped his face. His heart beat fast. He reached a small clearing. There, on the ground, lay a girl. Not human. Her skin was light blue. Her eyes were golden. She had long white hair, and she was bleeding. Standing over her was a creature. Big. 4 arms. Sharp teeth. It roared and raised its claws. Jackson didn't think. He jumped forward and shot his pistol. 1 shot. 2 shots. The creature turned. It ran toward him. Jackson kept firing. The beast jumped, but Jackson rolled and stabbed it in the side. It screamed and ran into the trees. Breathing hard, Jackson looked at the girl. She was still alive. Her eyes opened slowly. She stared at him. You are real," she said, her voice weak. Then she fainted. Jackson knelt beside her. He tore his shirt and wrapped her wound. She was light in his arms as he lifted her up. That's when he saw them. Eyes. Dozens of glowing eyes in the trees, silent, watching. Jackson froze. Strange figures stepped out of the shadows. Tall, blue-skinned like the girl. They wore animal skins and held spears. Their faces were painted. They didn't move closer. Then one of them walked forward, an old man with a long staff and glowing tattoos. He looked at Jackson, then at the girl in his arms. The old man dropped to one knee. And so did the others. Jackson didn't understand. He looked down at the girl again. Her hand touched his chest, weakly. "You saved me," she whispered. "The prophecy. It's true." Drums started in the distance, slow and deep. Boom, boom, boom. The tribe made a path. The old man nodded, pointing forward. Jackson walked with the girl in his arms. The tribe followed, silent. They reached a village made of stone and wood. Fires burned. Children watched from behind huts. Drums played louder. They took him to a large tent. Inside were paintings, cave drawings. One drawing showed a man falling from the sky. Another showed the same man fighting a beast. The last showed him wearing a crown. Jackson stared at the paintings. "What is this place?" he asked. The old man spoke in a soft voice. "You are the one who came from the stars, the one the sky sent." "I'm just a pilot," Jackson said. The old man smiled. "To us, you are more." The girl opened her eyes again. "Thank you," she said. "My name is Alari." "I'm Jackson," he replied. "What is this prophecy?" Alari looked at the cave wall. "It says a warrior from the sky will come, save the chosen one, and lead us." "Lead you where?" Jackson asked. Alari smiled faintly. "To peace, to freedom." Jackson shook his head. "You've got the wrong guy." But deep inside, something felt different. He had no ship, no way to call home. And now, a tribe of aliens thought he was their future. As the fire crackled, and drums echoed through the jungle. Jackson sat beside Alari. He looked up at the stars. He didn't come here to be a hero, but maybe fate had other plans. The tribe of eyes. The night was thick with smoke and drum beats. Jackson couldn't sleep. He sat near the fire, eyes fixed on the stars above. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there, his people were looking for him. Maybe. Maybe not. Behind him, the alien tribe was quiet. The same tribe that had bowed to him. The same tribe that had watched from the shadows with glowing eyes. They called themselves the Alari. He didn't know their words yet, but Alari helped him understand little by little. She spoke both her language and some broken human English. This tribe, they waited, she said, for long time. Jackson frowned. Waited for what? Alari looked at him with eyes full of wonder. For you. He didn't answer. It still didn't make sense. Why would an alien tribe wait for him? He was just a soldier, a pilot, a man who got shot down in the middle of nowhere. But here, he was something else. Morning came early. Golden light cut through the trees. The village woke slowly. Children laughed, running barefoot through the dirt. Old ones sat by fires, sharpening spears. Young warriors trained near the edge of the forest. Jackson watched them. Everything was so different, but also beautiful. Alari limped out of her hut, still weak but healing fast. The tribe whispered her name and gave her small gifts. Flowers, fruit, feathers. She was someone important. He could feel it. He walked beside her as the elder, called Nahar, led them toward a wide open space. It was a temple, carved from old stone, covered in moss and vines. At the center stood a tall pillar, and on it, a statue. Jackson froze. It was a human, or something that looked very close. He stepped closer. The statue had short hair, strong arms, and human features. It wore armor and held a glowing orb in one hand, a spear in the other. At the bottom, symbols were carved in the stone. What does it say? Jackson asked. Alari traced the words gently with her fingers. It says, "He came from the stars. He gave his blood to save us. He will return when the world is dark again, and he will lead us to the light." Jackson shook his head. That's just legend. Stories. It can't be real. Alari turned to him. Her voice was soft. But you came. You saved me. Just like the story. I'm not your savior, he said. I don't even know where I am. Nahar stepped forward and handed Jackson something small, a broken pendant. It was old and rusty, but inside was a tiny photo. Jackson's eyes widened. It was a photo of a human soldier, wearing Earth military armor, just like him. This is impossible, Jackson whispered. He's from Earth. Alari nodded. Yes, long ago, before our time. Jackson sat on the temple steps, confused. Then why haven't we heard of this place before? Why didn't anyone know? Because no one returns, Alari said quietly. No one, except you. That evening, they took him to the Chamber of Stories. It was deep underground, inside a hill. Torches lit the path. Walls were covered with carvings, wars, beasts, strange ships, and more humans. It was like a lost history, buried in time. There Nahar placed a crown of leaves on Jackson's head. He said words in the old tongue. The tribe repeated them. Jackson didn't understand, but he felt the weight, not just of the crown, but of the moment. He wasn't just a man now. He was a symbol. Later, Jackson and Alari sat by a small fire outside the chamber. Tell me, he asked, who was the first human? The one in the story. Alari looked into the flames. He was a warrior. Like you. He came when the sky was burning. He fought with us, lived with us, loved one of us. And then, he vanished. Vanished. No one knows where he went, she said. But he said, one day, another would come. Jackson stared into the fire, silent. His past didn't matter anymore. Not right now. The war, the crash, the ship. All that mattered was this place. These people. This mystery. Maybe he didn't crash by accident. Maybe he was meant to come here. But far away, in the black sky above the planet, something moved. A ship. Cold. Metallic. Watching. Inside, a voice spoke in another language. We found him. Test of the beast. The air smelled of ash and fear. Jackson stood at the edge of the ancient pit, eyes wide. The crowd behind him was silent. Warriors, elders, children, all watching, waiting. Alari stood beside him, her hand shaking. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. Jackson looked down. The pit was deep and dark. Something inside moved. Heavy. Slow. Breathing. "I do," he whispered. Earlier that day, Nehar, the elder, had called a meeting in the temple hall. The fires were lit, the drums silent. Alari sat beside Jackson, her eyes focused. She seemed different now, stronger, sharper, a leader in her own right. Nehar stood tall and raised his staff. "The sky has sent us a sign," he said. "The one from the stars is here, but we cannot follow him without the test." Jackson leaned forward. "What test?" "The test of the beast," Alari said. "It is an old trial. If you survive, you are chosen. If not, we wait for another." Jackson frowned. "So I have to fight something." Alari nodded. "Not just something. It, the Guardian." Now, at the edge of the pit, Jackson tried to stay calm. The weapons they gave him were old, just a wooden spear and a small shield made of bone. He missed his pistol. It was nearly out of ammo now anyway. The crowd began to chant in low voices. "Karashin, Karashin." Alari stood back as Nehar raised his hand. A deep horn blew through the forest. Then silence. And then a growl. It came from below. Slow, deep, like the earth was growling. The ground shook. Something huge climbed out of the shadows, covered in black fur. Eyes red as fire. Arms thick like tree trunks. Teeth like knives. The guardian beast. It roared, shaking the air. Jackson stepped back, his heart racing. He couldn't run. Not now. He gripped the spear. "Let's do this," he whispered. The beast charge. Jackson jumped aside, barely dodging its claws. Dust flew up around him. The crowd gasped. He struck with his spear, but it bounced off the beast's thick hide. Again it came at him, faster now. Jackson rolled to the side, then grabbed a rock and threw it at the beast's face. It roared in rage, swinging wildly. One blow hit Jackson's shield and sent him flying across the pit. He hit the wall hard. Pain shot through his side. But he stood up again. He had to. He looked up at the crowd, at Alari. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She watched, silent, proud. That gave him strength. Jackson ran forward, dodging the beast's charge again. This time, he saw a weak spot under the beast's left arm. The skin was thinner. He ducked, rolled, and stabbed deep with his spear. The beast howled in pain, spinning to hit him, but missed. Jackson backed away, breathing hard. The beast bulled, but it wasn't finished. It slammed its fists into the ground and roared so loud the trees shook. It rushed him again. This time, Jackson didn't run. He waited, and at the last second, he jumped, grabbing onto its thick fur. He climbed up the beast's back as it thrashed wildly. With all his strength, he raised the broken bone shield and drove it into the beast's neck. Blood sprayed. The beast staggered and fell. Jackson jumped free before it crushed him. He stood still, breathing hard. The beast did not move. Dead. The pit was quiet. Then the crowd roared. Voices screamed. Spears were raised. The chants grew louder and louder. Kareshen, Kareshen. Jackson looked up, his body shaking. Alari stepped forward, her eyes wide, shining with something new. Belief. You did it, she whispered. You are him. Nehar raised his hands. The guardian has chosen. The one from the sky has passed the test. That night, the tribe celebrated with fire, song, and dance. Jackson sat near the great fire, his arms bandaged. Children touched his hands. Warriors offered him gifts. Feathers, beads, carved stones. He didn't feel like a king. He felt tired, sore, confused. But something inside him had changed. Maybe it was the beast. Maybe it was the way the people looked at him now. Maybe it was the way Alari smiled at him. You're not just one of us now, she said. You are ours. But far above the jungle, the enemy ship watched silently. Inside, a cold voice spoke. Begin the strike. The human is not to be worshipped. He is to be taken. The enemy above. The stars blinked quietly in the sky above the jungle. Jackson sat by the fire, sharpening the spear. Not because he needed it, but because it kept his hands busy. His mind was full. The people had started calling him Sky King. They gave him a crown made from beast bones and painted his skin with red symbols. Wherever he walked, they stepped aside. Whenever he spoke, they listened. But deep inside, he still felt like the same man. Lost, a soldier without orders. Only now, he had a tribe depending on him. Alari stood behind him, quiet. You don't sleep, she said. Jackson gave a small smile. Hard to sleep when everyone thinks you're a hero. You are, she replied softly. No, he said. I'm just the guy who survived the crash. Alari stepped closer. You saved me. You passed the trial. And now, they believe you can save all of us. Jackson didn't answer. He looked up at the stars. They looked calm. But something in his gut twisted. Something was coming. The next day, strange signs appeared. Animals ran from the jungle, fast and wild. Birds flew low, as if hiding from the sky. The ground vibrated at odd times, like a silent storm under the soil. Jackson noticed it first while training with the younger warriors. Do you feel that? He asked. A young warrior nodded. Yes, the trees feel it too. Jackson's stomach turned. It was too familiar, like the hum of engines, big ones. That night, Jackson climbed the tallest tree in the village. He looked up at the stars again, this time, not in wonder. He was looking for danger. He saw it. A shadow moved across the stars, silent, massive, unnatural. A ship. He climbed down fast. They found me, he said. He told Nehar and Alari everything. They're not from here, Jackson explained. They're hunters. They shoot ships like mine down. They don't care about life. They take it. Why would they follow you here? Alari asked. Because I know what they did, he said. And maybe because I survived. The elder was silent for a long time. Then he spoke. Then we will fight. The next morning, the enemy arrived. Without warning, fire rained from the sky. One side of the jungle exploded. Trees burned. Huts turned to ash. A ship landed in the clearing, metal legs slamming into the ground. Soldiers in dark armor stepped out, tall, pale, with cold blue lights for eyes. They scanned the village. One of them raised a small device and spoke in a strange tongue. Target confirmed. Take the human alive. The warriors of the tribe stood their ground, but their spears were nothing against guns. 2 were taken. 1 was burned. Jackson ran toward the battle, yelling, "Fall back. Hide in the trees. Go." He fired his pistol, only a few shots left. He hit one soldier in the chest. It fell. Then they saw him. The lead soldier pointed. That's him. Capture. Jackson ran, pulling Alari with him. They dove into the forest as energy blasts lit the night behind them. Hours passed. Jackson and a small group of warriors hid deep in the jungle. Fires still burned in the distance. Screams echoed faintly. Alari sat beside him, her face covered in ash. "They came for you," she said. "No," Jackson replied. "They came to destroy hope." He looked at the frightened warriors. "We can't win with sticks and fire," he said, "but I have something they don't." "What?" asked Alari. "A reason to fight." He stood and faced the tribe. "They think we're weak," he said. "They think we'll run and hide. But I've seen you fight. I've seen your courage. They have machines. We have something better. Heart. We'll hit them when they don't expect it. We'll make traps. Use the jungle. Fight smart. They think I'm a king. Fine. Then I'll lead like one." The next few days were a storm. Jackson taught the tribe human tactics, ambushes, flanking, signals. They mixed human tech from the wreck with alien tools, spears with sharpened metal tips, slings that threw small explosives, smoke bombs made from wild plants. The warriors trained nonstop. And the people believed. For the first time, they believed they could win. One night, as the final plans were made, Alari pulled Jackson aside. "If we don't survive," she said, "I want you to know. I'm proud you came from the sky." Jackson looked at her. He gently held her hand. "We'll survive," he said. "And after that, we'll build something even stronger." At dawn, he stood before the warriors. The drums were silent. The wind was still. Jackson raised his spear. "Today, we fight back." The warriors roared, and from the shadows of the trees, they moved toward the enemy. High above them, inside the enemy ship, a commander watched. He zoomed in on the human. The screen blinked red. Target: Sky King. Threat level: rising. War cry of the Sky King. The jungle was no longer silent. It was alive, with whispers of war, footsteps in the dark, and the sound of something ancient waking up. At the edge of the forest, just beyond the enemy's temporary base, Jackson crouched behind a wall of thick vines. His eyes scanned the clearing ahead. Metal tents, laser fences, searchlights swinging like sharp white knives through the trees. Inside that camp, the ones who had come to capture him, the ones who had burned villages and taken his people. And now, they had taken Alari. It happened the night before. The tribe had launched a small attack just to test the enemy's strength. But the enemy was ready. They lured the warriors out. In the chaos, one ship flew low, dropped a black net, and pulled Alari into the sky. Jackson saw it all from the trees. He screamed her name, fired his last bullet. Too late. The enemy was not just after him now. They wanted her, the voice of the tribe, the one who believed in him from the start. Now, Jackson knelt in the jungle, surrounded by a small group of warriors. Each wore war paint across their faces. Each held a spear, a bow, or one of Jackson's strange new tools, explosives made from ship parts, knives carved from old metal. They were ready. He stood up slowly. "I'm not from your world," he said quietly. "But this fight, it belongs to all of us now." He raised his voice. "They took your homes. They took your friends. They took the one who gave you hope. They think they can break us, but they forgot one thing." He paused, looking around at the young warriors, the scared elders, the fearless women who had never backed down. "We are stronger than fear. They think I'm a king. Then today I will be one." He grabbed a torch, lit it, and held it high. "Let them hear our war cry." The jungle roared back. The attack began at dawn. The enemy didn't see it coming. Jackson's warriors moved like shadows. They cut through fences using broken energy blades. They dropped firebombs from the trees. Arrows flew through the air, faster than the enemy could react. From the treetops, warriors leaped down and pulled soldiers into the dark. Screams echoed. Smoke filled the air. Jackson led the charge from the front. He fought like he had nothing left to lose. Inside the camp, alarms blared. Enemy soldiers shouted in their strange language. They fired their weapons, but they were disoriented, confused, surrounded. Jackson ran through the smoke, diving behind cover, dodging blasts. He saw his people fighting beside him and winning. Then he saw her, Alari, trapped in a glowing cell inside one of the metal tents. Weak, but alive. 2 soldiers stood guard. Jackson didn't wait. He tackled the first guard, grabbed its weapon, and blasted the second. The cell door hissed open. Alari fell into his arms. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. "I told you," he said, holding her close. "We'll survive." Outside, the tribe pushed the enemy back. Warriors who had never touched a machine now used stolen weapons. Shields made of bark deflected energy shots. Spears flew with deadly aim. The enemy soldiers began to fall, one by one. Their ship tried to rise into the air, but Jackson had already planted explosives on its wings. He raised a hand, pressed a button. Boom! The sky lit up. The enemy's main ship exploded into pieces, raining fire across the forest. The last of the enemy soldiers tried to run, but they had nowhere left to go. The jungle itself seemed to close in on them. When it was over, the clearing was quiet again. Smoke rose from the wrecks. Warriors stood tall, breathing hard, blood on their hands, but eyes full of fire. Jackson stepped forward, helping Alari walk. Nihar, the elder, came through the trees, his eyes full of shock and pride. "You did it," he said. "No," Jackson replied. "We did." He turned to the tribe. "You are not weak," he said. "You are warriors, and from today, no one will take your home again." The warriors raised their weapons high. "Sky King," they shouted. "Sky King." But Jackson raised his hand for silence. "No," he said, "not Sky King. Just Jackson, one of you." He looked at Alari. "Together we fight. Together we rise." But far away, in space, a dark screen blinked. A new voice spoke. "Unit destroyed. Human still alive. He is no longer a target." Another voice replied. "No, he's something worse now." The screen zoomed in on Jackson's face. "He's a symbol." Into the fire. The celebration didn't last long. Yes, the battle was won. The enemy's camp was destroyed. Their ships burned. But something still didn't feel right. Jackson stood on a high cliff, looking out over the jungle. Smoke from the battle still floated in the sky. The wind carried it slowly toward the stars. Alari came beside him. "They left too quickly," Jackson said. She nodded. It felt like they weren't trying to win. "They were watching," he said. "Me. The tribe. Our strength." Alari's voice dropped. "Do you think more are coming?" Jackson didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared at the stars and said, "They'll send someone worse. Smarter. Colder." He turned to her. "That means we don't wait for them. We strike first." That night, the jungle was quiet. But deep underground, in a hidden chamber beneath the old temple, Jackson stood over a glowing table covered with ancient tech. The Alari had shown him something after the battle, something secret, a map of the stars, carved into stone, and a signal, weak but still active. From his crashed ship, he had rebuilt part of the transmitter. It now picked up transmissions from orbit. That's when he saw it, a massive enemy mothership, hiding in space, watching, feeding data to smaller scout ships, planning the next attack. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. Jackson gathered the council. Elders, warriors, builders, even young fighters sat in the circle of stone. He pointed to the map. "They have a command ship in orbit," he explained. "If we wait, they'll send a full army. Not scouts. Real soldiers. Machines. Wipe out everything. A heavy silence fell. So, he said, we go up there. We find their heart. And we stop it. Gasps followed. Up there, one warrior asked. In the sky. Jackson nodded. I can get inside. I've seen ships like theirs before. I know how they work. But I'll need help. Larry stood without hesitation. I'm going. Jackson turned. You don't have to. I want to, she said. This is my world too. They left before dawn. Larry, Jackson, and 4 of the best Alarai warriors, silent, fast, fearless. They walked back to the crash site. There, hidden in the jungle vines, was the broken body of Jackson's ship. And inside it, hope. Jackson got to work. He pulled parts from the engine, fuel cells, power cores. The AI unit was damaged, but it could still guide a short flight. Using pieces of the enemy's downed drones and his own ship's hull, Jackson and the warriors built a small shuttle. It wasn't pretty. It creaked. It hissed. It smelled like burning metal. But it flew. Just enough. As the shuttle lifted off, the jungle disappeared below. Larry stared out the window, her eyes wide. Your sky. It's beautiful. Jackson gave a small smile. You haven't seen anything yet. They broke through the clouds. And there it was. The mothership, floating like a dead god above the world. Huge, cold, alive with light and shadow. Jackson took a deep breath. Time to go into the fire. They docked on the side of the enemy ship. Jackson used an old code from his military days. It still worked. A door opened. They slipped inside, silent as ghosts. The halls were dark, long, filled with strange lights and sounds. Machines buzzed. Screens blinked with alien language. Jackson whispered, "Stay close." They moved room by room, hiding, listening, mapping the layout. Then they found it. The core. The ship's brain. It was guarded. Dozens of enemy soldiers. Mechanical sentries. A glass dome covered the main control. Larry leaned in. Can we destroy it? Yes, Jackson said, but we'll have to split up. He handed each warrior a small explosive. Plant these on every power line, every wall. When I give the signal, run. Larry grabbed his arm. What about you? I'll trigger the core manually. No, she said. You'll die. Jackson looked into her eyes. If I don't, this ship won't fall. They moved fast. One by one, the warriors spread through the ship, placing explosives, disabling systems. Larry stayed close to Jackson. Together, they reached the core chamber. They waited. Then, boom. A blast shook the ship. Lights flickered. The warriors had done it. Enemy soldiers screamed and scattered. Jackson and Larry ran into the chamber. He threw her behind cover. Go. I'll finish this. She screamed his name, but he was already climbing to the console. Inside the control pod, Jackson worked fast. Wires sparked. Alarms blared. The system tried to shut him out, but he knew how to fight machines. He set the core to overload. 5 minutes. Then he heard something. A voice. Cold. Robotic. Familiar. You again. From the shadows came the enemy commander, a tall figure in black armor, face hidden, glowing eyes staring. You inspire them, it said. That's dangerous. Jackson didn't speak. The two charged. Fists, blades, fire. A brutal fight in the heart of the ship. Jackson won. Barely. He stabbed the enemy commander through the chest. The machine hissed and died. Jackson limped to the console, blood on his hands, time running out. He pressed the final button. Goodbye. Outside, the warriors and Larry reached the escape shuttle. But Jackson wasn't there. She screamed, "We wait. We go back." The ship shook violently. Then, light. The mothership exploded behind them as the shuttle escaped into the stars. Back on the ground, days later, the tribe waited. Then a light fell from the sky. A small pod crashed into the river. The tribe ran to it. The door opened. Jackson was inside. Alive. Burned, but alive. Alari pulled him into her arms. "You came back." He smiled weakly. "I said we'd survive." Crown of stars. The stars were quiet again. No warships, no smoke, no explosions in the sky. For the first time in many years, the world of the Alari was calm. And in the middle of a peaceful jungle, under a sky full of light, a man from Earth opened his eyes. Jackson was alive. His body was weak, wrapped in bandages. His chest hurt with every breath. But his heart was beating. He lay in a small hut made from vines and stone, the wind gently moving the curtain by the door. He sat up slowly, blinking at the sunlight. Alari was there. She had not left his side. "You stayed," he whispered. She smiled. "Always." Outside, the village had changed. Children laughed freely again. Warriors practiced not for war, but for sport. Elders taught stories, not battle plans. And the people smiled. Because the sky was clear. Because the dark ships were gone. Because Jackson had returned. Weeks passed. Jackson grew stronger. Every day he walked a little farther. Spoke to more people. Helped rebuild huts and replant trees. But everywhere he went, they still called him Sky King. He didn't wear the title like a crown. He wore it like armor made from memories, of battles, of loss, of fire and stars. One morning, Nehar, the elder, called a meeting in the central temple. The tribe gathered. Banners were raised, flowers placed along the stone path. And there, under the great tree, the council offered Jackson a crown of stars, made from metal, crystal, and a piece of the ski ship that saved them all. But Jackson shook his head. "I'm not a king," he said. "Not really. I'm just a man who refused to give up." The crowd was quiet. Then Alari stepped forward, holding the crown. She placed it in his hands, gently. "Then wear it for them," she said. "Not for power. For peace." Jackson looked around. At the children who would grow up safe. At the warriors who no longer needed weapons. At the stars above, watching silently. He placed the crown on his head. And the jungle roared with joy. But Jackson didn't stay in one place. He traveled. He and Alari visited other tribes, ones who had once hidden, feared, or fought the Alari. But when they saw him, they did not fight. They listened, because the stories had spread. The human from the sky, the one who fought the guardian, the one who destroyed the ships of darkness, the one who came not to conquer, but to care. He helped build schools under trees. He taught them what Earth had taught him, how to dream, how to protect, how to lead with kindness. He helped unite the tribes into one voice. And when he spoke, he didn't speak like a hero. He spoke like a man who had lost everything and found something even better. Years passed. The sky stayed clear. Jackson walked with a cane now. His body still carried the pain of battles long past, but his spirit was brighter than ever. He and Alari stood on the cliff where it all began, where he once watched the stars with fear. Now he watched them with peace. One evening, the children of the village asked him for a story. "Tell us about the stars," they said. "About the battle. About the beast. About the fire." Jackson smiled and sat under the tree. He looked up at the sky and began. "I fell from the stars once," he said. "I thought it was the end, but it was just the beginning. I met a tribe who had never seen Earth. I met a woman who saw hope in a stranger. And I met a beast who bowed before courage." The children listened, wide-eyed. "And now," he said, "the stars are quiet because we made them listen." One day, a new ship arrived, not from the enemy, from Earth. Explorers, scientists, peacekeepers. They came in peace and were welcomed because of him, because of the man who stayed, because of the story that was no longer just his. In the great temple, a statue was built, not of a soldier, not of a king, but of a human with one hand raised and the other holding a child. A symbol of unity, of courage, of something even stronger than war. And in his final days, Jackson stood with Illyri once more. "You still don't think you're a king?" she teased. He chuckled. "No, but I think I found where I belong." She kissed his cheek. "You gave us more than victory," she said. "You gave us hope." He smiled one last time. "Then that's enough." When he passed, the stars blinked, the jungle sang, and the people said, "He came to crash, but stayed to rise. The man who fell from the sky and became our light."